Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to be doing the compatibility charts between Paul Murdaugh and his father Alex, and also the Synastry chart, compatibility chart between Maggie Murdaugh and Alex as well. But first I'm going to do the compatibility chart between Paul and Alex, because I found a lot of very interesting aspects in this compatibility chart between the two of them. Now, I've talked about the North Node before in my other videos, and in a compatibility chart, the North Node is very important because whatever planets or asteroids conjunct your North Node from the other person, that will signify the theme of the relationship between the two of you eventually, and it always plays out. So in this case, Alex's Requiem and Gun conjuncts Paul's North Node, 1 degree and 2 degrees. Requiem means funeral for the dead, and Gun is self-explanatory. And yes, there is an asteroid called a Gun. Now, Paul's Jupiter and Requiem conjuncts his father's North Node. This is like a double whammy. To me, this is undeniable that, in my opinion, or from what the chart is telling me, that his father was involved in the death of his son. Now, Paul's Jupiter conjuncting his father's North Node, that can mean a really nice thing, because Jupiter is can be a good luck charm, and it brings fame, or not fame, but fortune to the relationship. But Jupiter is also conjuncting Requiem, the death marker. And Requiem, like I said, funeral for the dead. Now, Jupiter magnifies whatever it touches. And in this case, death. Also, Jupiter is ruled by Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. And Jupiter also can represent weapons. Now, his dad's Chiron conjuncts Paul's moon. Chiron, normally to me, I see it when it conjuncts another person's personal planet, it brings pain. It can bring healing, but Chiron is a wild card, so you really have to pay attention to what goes on in the rest of the chart. So in this case, Chiron conjuncting Paul's moon, a lot of emotional pain involved. Dad's Sun and Venus conjuncts Paul's Agamemnon, 3 degrees. I've talked about Agamemnon in another video, and Agamemnon sacrificed his offspring in the Trojan War because he angered Artemis by killing one of her sacred stags. So in this case, this signifies to me a death or a homicide. Now, the sun is a very important luminary in a compatibility chart, and since it's conjuncting Paul's Agamemnon by 3 degrees, that's very significant. And in the rest of the chart, there's other indications as well. Now, Alex's Lachesis, Saturn conjuncts Paul's sun, 3 degrees. Again, the sun, very important luminary. Lachesis is a death marker, and Saturn is the ancient ruler of death. So conjuncting Paul's sun, that's what he brought to him. Paul's Lachesis conjuncts dad's Agamemnon, 2 degrees. So see how this all ties in together? We have, in this asteroid conjunction, the death marker conjuncting Agamemnon, the father, who sacrificed one of his children in the Trojan War. The name of the child that was sacrificed was Iphigenia. Now, dad's Iphigenia conjuncts Paul's Chiron and Ixion. Ixion has to do with murder, and Chiron has to do with pain. Now, in Paul's natal chart, Chiron conjuncting Ixion, that signifies a painful death through murder. Also, Dad's Ixion, that is the murder asteroid, it squares Paul's Chiron 2 degrees. And in a compatibility chart, squares represent what happens behind the scenes. So in this case, Ixion squaring Paul's Chiron, pain through murder. And it's at 2 degrees. So that's tight. So now I'm going to be going over the compatibility chart between Maggie and her husband, Alex. Now, Alex's Sedna conjuncts Maggie's IC, 0 degrees. That's the tightest orb that you can get. Sedna has to do with extreme betrayal and separation. And the IC is a very important angle in a compatibility chart. It opposes the midheaven. So whatever energies conjunct your IC, you'll receive them. And it happens behind the scenes because the IC is on the cusp of the 4th house, which rules the home and the family. Now, his Alex asteroid conjuncts her moon, 3 degrees. The moon, very important luminary in a chart. And so to me, this is fate. And Alex, his PNA, when I see conjunctions between PNAs and the other person's personal planets, this to me indicates fate. Now, her moon is in the 6th house, and this signifies that when you have moon in your sixth house, you usually marry into a family that's wealthy. Her Alex asteroid is in her 7th house natally, and the 7th house rules committed relationships and marriage. And it's also conjuncting her vertex. The vertex, like I've said before, very important part of a synastry chart. So whatever energies conjunct your vertex, those energies will come to you. So what came to her? Her husband, Alex, and it's in the 7th house. Now, her Pholus conjuncts his Eletko and Nephili asteroids, 1 degree and 2 degrees. Pholus is like, I wouldn't say a mini Jupiter, but it does explode the energies of whatever it conjuncts. And in this case, his Eletko, that has to do with the desire to punish. And Nephili, that asteroid, is like a mini Neptune. It has the energies of fogginess, illusion, but also in this case, smoke blowing. Now, his Rufus conjuncts her sun, 2 degrees. Like I've said before, the sun, very important luminary, so you have to pay attention to what conjuncts your sun and your moon from the other person. Very important, as well as the angles. So in this case, his Rufus, that has to do with drugs, and that's what he brought into this relationship. His Mars conjuncts her Betelgeuse, fixed star, 2 degrees. This indicates that he brought to her wealth, but also Betelgeuse has the nature of Mars, and it also signifies argumentativeness and unscrupulous behavior, and also it represents war and carnage. Now his Mars conjuncting that brought it, the dynamic and the energies really came together because Mars is a war planet and it represents violent deaths and weapons. Now his Requiem, Funeral for the Dead, conjuncts her vertex in the 7th house, 2 degrees. So what he brought to her? Death. Her Requiem in the 8th house. The 8th house rules death, and it conjuncts his Uranus, 1 degree. That's tight, and Uranus has the energies of things happening suddenly or out of the blue, because it's like a lightning bolt, and it's just all of a sudden it just happens suddenly, and it's unstable. So her Requiem, it happened suddenly, and it was out of the blue. His Maniac conjuncts her Descendant, 2 degrees. Maniac has to do with, it's self-explanatory. On the mild side, it could represent, moodiness or unstableness, but Maniac, conjuncting her descendant, very important angle, 2 degrees. That's the energy that he brought into the relationship as well. Now I'm going to go over, oh, I forgot this part. His Ixion and Bam conjuncts her midheaven, 0 degrees. Ixion, the murder asteroid, and Bam, the sound of guns going off, an explosion. Now, conjuncting the midheaven, that means that the whole world is now seeing the effects of what happened between the two of them, and it's on trial. It's plastered all over the news and social media. His law conjuncts her south node, 0 degrees. That's self-explanatory. He's a lawyer, and he also brought law into the relationship as well. Now, her Venus and Calypso conjuncts his south node, 1 degree. Venus, the planet of love, and Calypso has to do with things that are secret and hidden. And it opposes the North Node. So behind the scenes, I mean, there was a lot of secrets in this relationship, and I'm sure there still are. So we'll see what happens in court with his the determination. But I'm sure that a lot of the secrets in this family haven't been exposed because of this dynamic conjuncting the South Node. Now, her Mars in the 8th house, the 8th house rules death, and Mars has to do with violent deaths, and it's conjuncting his gun, 3 degrees. Wow. So here again, there's more significant aspects that coincide with him being involved in this murder. His Jupiter conjuncts her Margaret asteroid, 3 degrees. Fate, again, Margaret is her name, and Jupiter conjuncting that. To me, this indicates, I've talked about the energies of Jupiter before, but in this case, it's, again, ruled by Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. So again, this is another fated aspect. So now I'm going to go over the planetary aspects between the two of them. They have a lot of squares in their compatibility chart with Pluto. And Pluto, it has to do with control issues and transformation and unhealthy attachments. And there's quite a few squares. His Venus squares her Pluto, 3 degrees. This has to do with obsessive and unhealthy attachments involving power and sex, and money can also be involved in this dynamic and energy flow. But squares don't flow easily. There's a lot of friction and can be a lot of unbalance between the two planets. Also, there's a lot of give and take that's unbalanced as well for selfish reasons. One person can want something and the other person won't readily give that to them. So they take it upon themselves to find out a way to get it without the help of the other person. But this happens on both sides. Now, his Mars squares her Pluto, 4 degrees. This square can indicate violence and abuse, manipulation and power struggles. Now, if you have Mars squaring another person's Pluto in your compatibility chart, it doesn't necessarily mean that there will be violence, but you have to take into consideration the orb, how wide it is or how tight it is. And you also have to take into consideration what the rest of the chart is telling you. You have to look at things on the big picture, not just a few aspects. So this came into fruition, violence and abuse, power struggles. It's written right here in the chart. His Sun squares her Pluto, 3 degrees. This has to do with hostility, and it develops into power struggles and obsession. And the Pluto person, which is her, she feels a need to control him in certain ways and to direct the energies of the Sun person, which is him, into sort of like a remolding. And it's a power configuration and energy It doesn't work out well because the sun will rebel. And also, like I said, Pluto has to do with power struggles, transformation, and attachments that can result in unhealthy behavior. Also, his Mars squares her Uranus, 1 degree. This can lead to explosive, sudden arguments and even violence. So again, there's more indications of this happening. Uranus is a very unstable planet. Things can happen out of the blue without any warning. It's like a lightning bolt. And all of a sudden, there's just sudden upheavals and instances where you just didn't expect something to happen. And Mars squaring her Uranus, there's power control here because Mars is the lower octave of Pluto, and Mars represents anger, and also it's a war planet. So that's all I have today. I hope you enjoyed this interpretation. And if you're interested in hearing about more synastry charts, hit the subscribe button and I will be back again soon. Have a nice day.